Hello and welcome to the first of the Bolder Healthier Champions Workplace Champions briefings on physical activity. This session is to give you a bit of an understanding as a workplace Bolder Healthier Champion, how to support and enable physical activity in your workplace, but also help you understand a little bit of the evidence base around why being active is important for employers and in the context of the workplace. I'm Dr. Justin Varney. I'm the Director of Public Health for Birmingham City Council, and I'll be presenting the webinar today to you. So let's get into that. First of all, let's talk about what's the difference between physical activity and exercise. This is language that we use every day, but it means different things to different people. So it's important we start out by understanding the language that we're using through today's webinar. Physical activity is defined as any bodily movement produced by skeletal muscles that requires energy expenditure. So lifting your arm above your head is physical activity. Dancing is physical activity. Lifting weights at the gym is physical activity. Taking a walk is physical activity. Anything that requires movement of your limbs is really considered physical activity. Exercise is a form of physical activity that's planned. So you think about what you're doing. It's structured. It's usually repetitive, so that there are certain activities or actions that you repeat again and again. And it has a sense of purpose. Now, that sense of purpose might be going to the gym to exercise, to become physically stronger or to tone up your shape. Or it might be playing sport, for example, where your objective is to get the ball in the net or to win a match of judo, for example. So exercise is a form of physical activity, but not all forms of physical activity are classed as exercise. Physical inactivity is the term that we use to describe people who aren't even doing 30 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity a week. So when we talk about physical activity, we often talk about it in terms of whether it's moderate or whether it's vigorous. So the easy way of thinking about it is moderate physical activity is when you're getting a little bit breathy and a little bit hot and sweaty, that kind of warm feeling when you're walking fast to catch the bus, for example, you're running a little bit late to a meeting. Vigorous activity is when you're really sweating. So let's say you're pounding on the treadmill at the gym or you're lifting a lot of weights in the gym. That would be considered vigorous activity. You know, a good game of football is vigorous activity, but a gentle walk around the park is really only moderate activity if you're starting to get that sense of that feeling a little bit warm, but you're still able to complete a sentence and have a conversation. So we think about how much physical activity do we need. For adults, we need 150 minutes of moderate physical activity every day, every week, or 75 minutes of vigorous activity. The best thing for us all to do is to be active every day. Doesn't matter how long the bursts of activity are, even jumping up and down for a minute is better than doing no activity at all. And every minute counts towards that 150 minutes a week of moderate activity. In addition to the aerobic activity, this activity that makes us feel warm and a little bit short of breath, we also need to be able to be doing stuff that builds our muscles and strengthens our bones. And we should be doing that at least 2 days a week. Now, that can be doing exercises like yoga, it can be lifting weight at the gym, it can even be lifting heavy bags of shopping. All of that will help build your muscles and strengthen your bones. As we age, it's important we add in a bit of balance activity. So games like bowls, exercises like Tai Chi, things like dancing, all of that helps us understand our body's movement in space and improve our sense of balance. And as we get older, that's one of the things that can be harder. So it's important to invest in this at every age, but particularly when you're a working age adult. And then the final element is to minimize the amount of time you sit down. So that's sedentary activity. As a society, we've got more used to using computers, being sat behind a little screen, watching TV. We spend too long sitting down, and we know that the more you sit, the more damage that does to your health. So actually, it's an important part of the guidelines to say we should also reduce the amount we're sitting, as well as doing that muscle strengthening, that balance, and that aerobic moderate physical activity as well. And every move really matters. We know that the moment people start to achieve more than 30 minutes of moderate physical activity a week, we start to see an impact on their health. The reason we recommend the 150 minutes a week is that's the kind of optimal point. That's the point at which you're doing a reasonable amount of physical activity, be that 20 minutes a day, and you're getting the best bang for your buck in terms of the improvement in your health. Now, it is a kind of dose-relate curve, which means that the more you do, the more benefit you get. But the 150 minutes is considered the kind of optimal space in which you're getting the best outcomes for the least amount of effort. So 150 minutes of moderate physical activity, 2 days a week of doing some muscle strengthening, at least 2 days a week of doing some balance work, and reducing the amount of time you're sitting for long periods. All of that will really make a difference to your health and your well-being. So why does it matter in the workplace? Well, when we think about physical activity, if it was a pill, it would be the wonder drug. Physical activity reduces the risk of developing over 40 different health conditions, from dementia to depression, from hypertension through to stroke, from diabetes to cancer. It reduces your risk of developing these diseases. But if you have these diseases, it also makes them easier to manage, and it reduces the risk of complications. So you really are quids in getting more active every day. But for businesses, there are also impacts and benefits. So when we look at the amount of exercise that people do, we're not doing enough physical activity. Too many of us are inactive. And that inactivity leads to ill health, which is costing us in the context of sickness absence, particularly in relation to musculoskeletal conditions like back pain, where we know that taking a brief walk every day, it can be as effective as the first line of painkillers that we use for treating lower back pain. So we know that being physically active every day has a real impact on what employers see in terms of sickness absence. That's not just for physical health, it's also for mental health. And that's a really important part of the equation, is recognizing that physical activity plays a part in both our body's physical health and our mental health, and the benefits therefore play out for employers in both. So when you think about your role as a bolder, healthier workplace champion, how are you going to be able to get this argument across? How do you convince your colleagues that being active every day is important for them? We know that people who are active every day as employees report being sick less often. They recover quicker when they do get ill. They have a greater enjoyment of work, that actually they have better concentration, better cooperation with colleagues, better connection. And they're also better able to cope when things get more difficult and there are periods of stress at work. Increasing physical activity for the employer reduces that absenteeism, that sickness absence, and it can also reduce the cost to employers if they do fund health insurance. There's lots of evidence base for this, and we've included in the slide pack for you some of the links around what can happen in terms of workplace interventions and what the impact they can have on physical health and psychological health in the workplace. So as I said, the benefits of physical activity are huge. Whatever your age, whatever your ability, being active every day makes a real difference to your health and your lifestyle. We know that it will make you live longer. We know that if you have a health condition, it will improve your health condition. And we know that it also will make you happier because it does reduce your risk of anxiety and depression. And if you have these conditions, actually getting active makes a big difference. But we know if you have a health condition, sometimes it's a bit scary to get physically active. And there's a lot of support out there, which we'll talk about at the end of the webinar, to help people who've got health conditions get active, as well as those of us that don't. So in the workplace, how do you make a difference? How do you make this real in the context of where you work? Well, every workplace is different, and this is why you're a bolder, healthier workplace champion. You know your workplace best, and you know how people are going to react, the people you work with, but also the context of where you're working. Encouraging people to incorporate walking into their daily commute is a really good way of getting physically active. The research from London showed that people who commuted to work using public transport, but specifically using the tube, were achieving the 150 minutes just because of the way that they move through tube stations, the up and down stairs, and the pace at which people were moving meant that they were moderately physically active in that brisk walk that they had on during the commuter time. Taking stairs in the office can be a really good way of just adding a little bit of physical activity into your day. Thinking about how the office makes those stairs interesting. Too often over the 90s, we started to put stairs tucked away in a corner, hidden behind beautiful glass lifts. So everyone wanted to get in the lift and be seen going up to the boss's office at the top of the building, rather than taking the stairs. Now we're thinking much more intelligently, I think, about making staircases an experience, somewhere people want to interact, they want to go through, they want to travel through. So think about the staircases in your workplace. What are they like? Are they dark, dank, concrete corridors? Or are they spaces that are great to be in? Spaces where colleagues will bump into each other on the stairwell and have a little chat. That connection can make it really valuable to someone why they want to take the stairs rather than standing in the lift. Important to think about how we integrate this in ways that are easy. Having a group that goes out at lunch once a week to go and eat somewhere else, or walks together to the local supermarket to get lunch or a snack. In some businesses, they even have Pokemon hunting groups. All of these are great ways for people to get social but be active at the same time. But you can also be active at your desk. And if you have got a job which keeps you chained to your desk for a lot of the day, learning how to take some of these activities into desk-based exercise can be a really important part of keeping physical activity going. There are lots of challenges out there for workplaces, whether it's sponsored runs, sponsored walks, whether it's hula hoop challenges. There are lots of ways of using physical activity to build that sense of belonging, that sense of connection. And that's one of the things to talk to the employer, to your bosses about, saying, doing this is not because it's nice to do, it'll pay back for you in terms of sickness absence. But actually, if we do it in a fun way that's really engaging for people, it will also pay back to you in how people feel about the organization. So engaging your employers in the changes that you suggest you want to make is really important part of this. I talked about doing some stretches at your desk, and here's just an example of what's available. There are some great resources, particularly through the Chartered Society of Physiotherapists, on how to do exercises at your desk. And if you're in a job which requires you to be stuck at the screen and not move too much, simple movements like twisting at your desk, regularly stretching your arms up, moving your back around will really help you maintain that mobility. But it also is doing great things for your heart and for your mind, as well as keeping your muscles and your bones supported. So there are lots and lots of different ways that I've talked about in the webinar about ways to get physically active at work, things that you can encourage employers to do. You can talk to your bosses about. It's great to encourage cycling and walking to work, but have you got shower facilities? Have you got storage lockers? All of those things can be thought about as well to help people get more physically active in the workplace. And it isn't a one size fits all. Think about who you work with, the type of work you're doing. How can you make it fun and engaging? How can you make it something that people want to do? There is no one silver bullet for physical activity. There's no one form of physical activity that everyone wants to do and that everyone's going to say, yes, this solves it for me and I'm going to do it every day. We like to be promiscuous in the way that we get active. We like to try different things and we like to have a varied day and a varied week. So building different forms of physical activity opportunity into the workplace is a really important part of making it real for everyone. Also thinking about how inclusive is it? It may be great to have a football club with some of the lads after work, but does that include women? We've just watched the English women's football team win great medals and take us to the top of the leagues. So how are you enabling the approach to be accessible for everyone and inclusive for everyone? There's lots of advice and guidance for people with disabilities to be physically active. And it doesn't take a lot to make sure that what you're doing is inclusive for everyone in the workplace. But as I said, having a bit of a smorgasbord, a bit of pick and mix will really help your colleagues and yourself keep engaged, keep it fun and keep it interesting. In your slide pack that you'll get alongside this webinar, there are a whole load of hyperlinks to resources out there. There are a lot of toolkits for physical activity in the workplace. Particularly want to highlight the one from Business in the Community, BITC, and the work that was done through Health Matters. Both of these are really brilliant, simple guides about what works in workplaces to help people be more physically active. And they're great free resources to help everyone and make it real for you and your workplace. There's also opportunities specific to Birmingham. If you live in Birmingham, and that means you pay council tax in Birmingham, you're eligible to get free leisure passes and access to some of the great free facilities across the city. So do check out the Be Active passport and what's available on your doorstep. There's also a load of activities in local parks across the cities, leisure centres, walking groups. You know, get out and work out what works for you. Think about what's in the area around your workplace. Have a look at some of the active travel plans, the cycle routes that are springing up across the city after the Commonwealth Games, the sports clubs that are out there. There are lots and lots of opportunities to be active in our city. And it's a great way to engage people in a conversation about their health and well-being, because at the end of the day, physical activity needs to be fun. It should be something that we each do every day because we benefit from it, but we also feel better from doing it. And being active every day is something that really pays back for all of us at every point in life. We've got other resources available, the YouTube videos that we have on the Be Healthy platform. There's information that was produced as part of the Commonwealth Games. We've even got a suite of posters. If you're sports minded and you want to know what the health benefits are of badminton versus basketball, we've got a poster out there that'll help you. And again, that can be a great thing to put up in your workplace to help people think about, oh, maybe I could try it. Maybe I could get back into sport. Haven't played for a few years, but I can see some reasons now as I get a little bit older to get back into the game and start playing again. So I hope today's been really helpful for you. The idea of these webinars is they're short and sharp and they give you a lot of information, but you can watch them again and again, play them back, and you get the slide set separately to help you understand and reflect on what you've learnt today. I hope that you will take the lessons and the information we've given you and you'll put it into action in your workplace and make a real difference to the people you work with. Because being active every day is something that will make a difference for every single person in Birmingham. Too many of us are inactive. Too many of us are suffering because of the inactivity. So get out, be active, and have fun.